Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Zina, Suissa, psychologist and executive coach, president of Resonance Executive and Team Coaching. I am so thrilled to have with me Jim Clemmer of the Clemmer Group. Jim is a leadership expert, world-renowned best-selling author. He's worked with family businesses, healthcare institutions. He's worked with companies. He's worked with corporations. He probably could tell you much more than I am. I know he's done a lot of work, I was just mentioning before, I love the term. He's been called the edutainer. An edutainer is a great modality of learning. You entertain and you help with philosophy, knowledge, and implementation steps. So we've got the combination of humor and learning. What better can we have? We don't have much better. So what I thought I'd start off with, by the way, he's written 7 leadership books and change. I like the idea that he's written both. That's good. He works in different areas, so leadership and change. I'd like to start off with a couple of quotes that comes from a book that's called Growing with the Speed of Change, at the Speed of Change, sorry. There's nothing constant in the universe, all ebb and flow, and every shape that's born bears in its womb the seeds of change, and that's Ovid, first century Roman poet. From that, another quote, life is a series of natural and spontaneous changes. Don't resist them. That only creates sorrow. Let reality be reality. Lao Tzu, 6th century Chinese philosopher. And bringing to the present, and I know her work, Gail Sheehy is an American author who wrote on life cycles, and she wrote the book Passages, and she said, if we don't change, we don't grow. If we don't grow, we aren't actually living. Everything in those 3 quotes, we have a commonality. Change has a lot of resistance to it. So Jim, maybe you could help my audience to understand what causes this resistance to change.
Sure. Well, like anything, there are multiple causes and it can get pretty complex. But my experience is that it has a lot to do with how we might be either wired or have wired or acquired, I guess, our frameworks or how we're looking at the world. So if we tend to the optimistic side, and if the change is positive, then there'll probably be less resistance and a little more embracing. But many of us are wired towards the pessimistic side. And so we start to envision all of these negative consequences of change and see it as potentially a loss rather than a gain. And of course, it can be a loss of lots of things, status or power or certainty or many things. And that can create lots of resistance.
And knowing as a psychologist, one of the ways with working with pessimism is behavior change.
Mm-hmm.
So disputing and challenging our belief system and hopefully and going in the direction of positivity, which is such a big area right now.
Yes.
Okay, so if we know that there's such resistance to change, how do you propose that we can help people, employers and employees, envision or make some change?
Well, I find, now this may be part of how I'm wired or what I've developed, is that having a sense of vision or possibility or where we're trying to get to is a good beginning point. And that can help us overcome perhaps or overshadow those negative, pessimistic kinds of views of the future. And then, as you've just alluded to with some of the research on positivity and positive psychology, it's looking at what are all the possibilities, what strengths can we use, how can we play to these strengths, and how can we take a more optimistic approach towards this change and find the good in the change.
Right. I have to agree totally. Okay, so I read in several of your articles and your books, because I think I have every book you've ever written, you talk about modes and patterns of thinking in face of change and adversity. And you call them the victim, the survivor, and the navigator.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that and maybe share the effect of having this type of thinking.
Sure. Yeah, that's a framework that I've continued to work with, actually even evolved it even a bit further. And so I often think of the navigator, as the name implies, that think of the marine sort of analogy. We're on the high seas. We can't control the wind or the waves or what weather throws at us, but we can control our direction and how we respond to it. So I've also used the parallel thought, well, that's leading mode. So when we're navigating, we're leading, we're initiating, making things happen, looking at possibilities, etc. The second mode is a little more in the neutral area, and I would argue, and I think a lot of research shows that it tends to be, if you think of the bell curve, it's a little more at the center, and it's where we're sort of sitting back and we're waiting. Maybe just surviving is one way of saying we're hanging in there. Another term I've used is basically following. We're waiting for someone to kind of give us direction. Where should we go? Should we be worried about this or not? And it's a gray area where we can either be on the positive side or we could be on the negative side. And then the third area is the dangerous area, and that is the wallowing, I sometimes call it, or the victim area. And there's a lot of sense of being victimized, of not having control. They're out to get us. They're doing it to us. Again, lots of conspiracy theories. And we tend to wallow in all that's wrong and get caught up in that pessimistic trap. I think of it as living in Pity City and riding on the bitter bus down Helpless Highway.
You're right, Bill. Okay, so can we move people from victim city to survivor mode, and perhaps even to leader or navigator, as you call it, you know?
Sure. Well, again, with your background, you know there's lots of evidence that shows, yes, we can, and that it has a lot to do with reframing, or step one really is thinking about our thinking and just becoming aware of how we're framing and looking at a situation, and just to know that, hey, I think I'm in leading mode right now. No, I think I'm falling into wallowing mode. Just that awareness is a critical step one. And then step two is, okay, now what do I need to do to shift that thinking? And of course, that's where it becomes a lot more personalized. So for some people, it is visioning, or it's looking at possibilities, or it's leveraging strengths. For others, it might be inspirational kinds of quotes like the ones you started with here. So we all have different things that respond to us, but it's finding, well, what are those couple of strategies or approaches that I know are going to get me shifting my thinking?
Just out of curiosity, do you believe in the imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think that certainly. I think it's possible. Yes, and I guess I would point to a family member who others see as beautiful, successful, so on, who probably falls into a bit of that trap.
And this fake it till you make it, it's kind of, fake it. It's like when I first started teaching, I'm a psychologist who just started teaching in McGill and decided I'm going to do this. In the beginning, it did not feel exactly, but then I slowly felt into it, started surviving, and then became the leader of the class. And that's the way I see myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, as you probably well know, there's a real school of thought that says more often we can act our way into a new way of thinking than think our way into a new way of acting. And so that's what you're doing there.
Yeah, well put. And okay, so finally, what's in store for you in your future?
Well, I do love writing and researching and learning and trying to apply. Even though there are hundreds of thousands of books around on leadership, I still feel like I can contribute a little something more. But this time around, rather than the old approach that I've used with my previous books, where I basically have conceived a framework, a model, or approach, and then kind of brought that to my readers, I'm using, instead of crowdsourcing, reader sourcing, I call it, which is where I've gotten a lot of input from a wide number of readers and researchers and people in the field, and you're one of them, and I appreciate that, around what are some of the key topics today. And so I want to get that input, and then I want to use an iterative kind of process to have a book advisory group move along with me and help kind of guide where we should go with this, what kind of approach we should use, what would be the most useful, what's the most relevant today, etc. So I'm quite looking forward to that mutual learning process.
Yes, and I'm absolutely looking forward to your upcoming book. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I know you're working really hard at it, and I love the idea of helping you. I really do. I really appreciate you asking for my help.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And because I'm also now a grandfather with 4 grandkids, the book's going to go a little slower than it We have gone in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we're
other priorities.
We're on the same plane. I have 5 grandchildren, and they want grandma, especially yesterday was Happy Father's Day, Happy Grandfather's Day.
Yes,
right?
thank you.
It was a special day. It really was, as Mom's Day. So thank you so much. And we'll be in contact, of course. And I thank you, and my viewers will love the research that you do and your expertise, leadership, change, etc. Thank you
very much.
Really.
Good to chat with you.
Thank you.